Hello and welcome. My name is Kathleen and you are watching the BA Zone live. And yes, it is really live. So you can hear all kinds of noises and things because there's no editing done. How you doing? Hope you're having a good day. Tonight on this episode, we're going to talk about how and really why business analysts create customer journey maps for requirements gathering. It's the kind of thing that particular phrase tends to be associated with UI UX, but sometimes we are the UI UX team, or if you have UI UX, you can work with them on getting this kind of thing together. But this is a really handy tool, and I'll explain why in a minute. But I just wanted to make sure that everything was up and running before we do the official show start. So settle in, invite a friend, whatever works for you. Grab yourself a little beverage. Hopefully wherever you are, the temperature is nice. We're on the too hot end of the scale. I know other people are on the too cold or too wet end of the scale. We're never happy, but hopefully somebody out there has got the perfect weather today and they've been enjoying it. All right, it looks like everything is up and running, so I'm going to run the open and we will do this for real. Hang in there. Hello and welcome. My name is Kathleen and you are at the BA Zone Live. In this episode, we're going to talk about customer journey maps, why business analysts use them, or at least should, and how they're important for requirements gathering. It's the kind of thing that is actually a solution to a problem that maybe not everybody is completely aware that they're having. So a lot of our fellow BAs reach out to us and they tell us that they struggle when they're doing process flows or workflows or task flows, and there's a really good reason for that, because they're trying to do them before they really have all the information in place. And that's what the customer journey map is for. That helps give you those basic pieces that you need in order to start to build all those other flows out. So let me get this ball rolling and we can start to talk about this. Okay, so any conversation starts off with the, well, what the heck is it, right? So that's we're gonna start with here. What is a customer journey? At the most bare bones part of it, right? The customer journey is everything that your users or your customers go through as they are trying to accomplish their goal. Now, maybe that is deciding whether or not your product, service, or tools are the right solution for them. Maybe they are already using your product, solution, or tools, and now they're trying to accomplish a goal of their own, complete some sort of task. All of these things are tied into their customer journey, right? And there's a lot of things that happen well before you first even know they exist. And there's a lot of things that go on while they're engaging with you or your tools or your service that you're not necessarily aware of. That is not necessarily front of mind when you're making decisions about enhancements or new features or whatever else. And then of course there's the after part. And very rarely does that get discussed in the business environment, but it very often is an important part of that overall situation, because you need to be there at the beginning, right? So that they're finding what you offer, that they're feeling confident about their decision. Obviously, while they're working with you, that's important. But also the results at the end. If the results at the end do not meet their needs, goals, or expectations, the odds of them being satisfied is extremely low. And the only way to start to get a feel for what those pieces are and what all of these surrounding pieces are is to go ahead and map the customer journey. So that is what we're going to talk about. The important thing to keep in mind here is that the customer journey mapping, let's talk about what it's not, okay? So it is not a workflow. It is not a process flow. It is not a task flow, okay? The whole point of it is that it should be focused on the person or people that are going to be using it. It is meant as a catalyst for everything else that you're going to do during your project, whether you're creating a new product or adding features or doing enhancements or bug fixes, whatever it is. This whole process is the catalyst from where all of your other conversations are going to come from. And it is going to help drive your next steps, and it's going to help you to identify the strategic points that maybe would not have been noticed otherwise. And it's certainly going to inform all of your design decisions going forward, whether it is UI, UX, database, processing time, even just the actual workflow, task flow kind of thing. Everything comes from this, but this unfortunately is a step that many people skip. So that's why we're going to talk about that. We're going to fix that today. All right. Let me go back here. Okay. So why is it important? I kind of covered that already. But you're going to use this and this process to help you analyze the behavior of what you're providing and what the people who are using it are bringing to the table on it. It's also going to help your organization remember that there are people involved. Now, I know that sounds dumb, but the fact of the matter is, and you'll know this for yourself if you've done this job for any length of time, when you start to work on a project, you get so in the weeds. It's definitely a case of you can't see the forest for the trees, right? I mean, that's just how it is. When you get down into the deep problem solving and the internal negotiations and the politics and everything else that's going to go on, having this map to go back to is going to be a great touchstone for you to go back and reset yourself when you realize that you're starting to get in so deep that you're losing the big picture, right? So it's really important to have this there because it's actually going to streamline everything that comes after it. It's also going to help all of the decision makers stay focused on customers because you're going to share this with everybody on the team. A lot of people maybe will never have seen one before, so you may have to walk them through it. You're going to want to keep it handy when you're running meetings, when something comes up and there's a point of contention, or they're not going in the direction you want them to go in, or they're not thinking about something that you think is important. You can always pull out this map and kind of go to that point in the process on the map and focus on what the people are doing, what they're facing, and kind of bring that element back into the equation, because a lot of times that will adjust things. So just a quick story. I do this just as part of my process, and it's never been anything that anybody's asked me for, but it's always been handy through the process. So we are about halfway through a fairly large project, and we are at that point where the developers are all about, they've got deadlines, they've got multiple projects going on, there's some fire going on, and so all that they want to just push everything aside and just plow through and get something so that there's data in the database that goes in and data in the database that comes out. And they keep trying to cut corners, which is normal. This is human beings that we're talking about, right? We're human beings creating something for human beings. That's the equation here. And so, they start to talk about, well, we don't have to, worry about how we present it. We'll just put a code there. They know what the codes are, or we can, just leave out those details and they'll piece it together. And that's when I bring the map back out. They all kind of sigh at some point, because they know where I'm going with this. But it does change the tone of the conversation, because all the people who were pushing so hard, and literally this just happened this morning, so all the people who were pushing so hard for cutting all these corners, and some of them were okay, but some of them were not, and so for the ones that weren't, I was like, okay, but in the context of this user doing this thing with this goal, we're putting work on them that should be on us, okay? We're asking them to spend 10 minutes figuring something out that the system should do for them in seconds. And they know that, but it helps to kind of bring it all back, right? It gives them something to focus on. And sure enough, they agreed, and we did go about and do it the right way. So this is the kind of a piece that maybe is never going to show up on a checklist from any of your managers to say you need to include this as part of your thing, but just do it anyway. Start to bring it in, and they'll just start to expect it to be there. And before you know it, you've established a new standard. That's a good thing. All right, let's keep going here. So the other part of this is that this is more than just the data. So that is a problem that we run into a lot with this. And I'm going to say this later again, but when we start to talk about tools, there's lots of people out there selling tools that say, oh, we'll take all of your data and your analytics and everything, and we'll do the maps for you. The data is handy. Obviously, you're going to use it a lot during your process, but the data does not replace the need for humans to go through this exercise of creating these maps, because the data is not the be-all and end-all. The data is something that is already there for the project. Like, that's the easy part, okay? It's going through and figuring out how the humans are dealing with it and what those data points mean, right? Data is there and it can indicate something to you, but it can't tell you what's really going on. So it's important to keep that in mind. That said, the data is important, but combining the maps with the data gives you a much clearer picture of what's going on, what they're facing, what they need, things that the data alone is never going to tell you. You can guess, but you don't need to guess. You can actually go and figure this stuff out and marry it to the data, and that just makes the map stronger, and it makes the data stronger. So it's a win across the board. And so you're going to win across the board on this, and you're going to find that you're going to get to better solutions faster than you did before, because you're not going to be guessing. You're not going to be kind of feeling around in the dark. You're going to have actual information to work with. You're going to have data that is married to practical examples and use cases that will then help explain what needs to happen next. It makes everybody's job easier. Okay, so what is the customer journey map? It's a visual representation of this entire process, okay? And there's some key points that you want to make sure that you are including in this. You want to cover the actions that are going on, human external forces, the application, the tool, the service itself, the motivations behind the interactions, the questions, concerns that the person is going to have as they're going through it, the pain points, the obstacles, all of the little details that tend to get glossed over are brought up and highlighted in the customer journey map. So let's talk a little bit about the things that you want to make sure that you include in the map. You want to make sure that this is something that is built from the person's point of view, from the customer, from the user's point of view. This is not something that's going to focus on the marketing team or the internal, business point of view or the internal business goals. That's later. I mean, that's all important. I'm not in any way saying that this is not important, because obviously it is. They're paying us. But that is not the purpose of this map. This map is solely focused on the people who are using the goods, products, or service, right? So make sure that that's what is being focused on. Everything else you'll get to later. This is the moment where you're really focusing on the person. You want to make sure that as you're going through this, you're getting enough detail, right? So you want to make sure that you're including things like their perceptions of the experience, their expectations of the experience. Whether or not they're realistic is not the point. The point is people are going to bring stuff to the table, and so you want to make sure that that is there. You also want to make sure that their needs are a part of this map, because that's the driving force between this. Sorry, the dog. That's the driving force behind decision-making processes. So you want to make sure that those pieces are in your map too, so that they don't get overlooked. And then you want to make sure that you do it in a visual way. Now, there's a lot of people who are like, well, I can do it in a spreadsheet and all that kind of stuff. And that's true, but you want to have some visual elements there, because that helps to communicate things a little bit more clearly. And I'm going to show you some examples of that. Okay, so I guess that's all those. All right, so let's keep going. Actually, I'm sorry. I did promise to check chat. See, it's so much easier when I'm running the show, because then I can keep an eye on things. Hi, John. Good to see you out there. Yes, grab your popcorn and enjoy. This is it's a good topic. It's a visual topic, and those are always a little bit more fun, I think. Okay, so we've covered that. All right, so let's look at some examples, right? Because we're talking about visuals, so let's look at the visuals. Let me bring a window over. I need to switch this to this so that you can see these. So I just grabbed literally a handful because I wanted to show you that this is not so much about how you do it. It's more about what you're including in it, right? So this is an example from Carnegie Mellon, right? So they've got the phases of the journey mapped out at the top, customer thoughts and feelings, just a couple of words, right? Customer actions, okay? And then they mapped it so that you could see that the bouncing that goes on, the touch points and devices that may or may not apply. That's probably more of a software development kind of a thing, but still. The people and environment, what's going on around them while they're doing this. And then, well, the proposed changes would come later, but the scenarios are the steps, the activities, the driving forces, the needs, wants of the person that is going through this. So that's one way to do it, right? This is another, right? Same kind of thing. Okay, they've got it broken out. And then they've got, the pieces that are straight lines, the ones that, are kind of the looping parts of the process, the ones where they kind of wander around because that's a part of everybody's process, right? No human being on the planet does things in a straight A, B, C, D. That's not how we work. That's not how our brains work. And this is acknowledging that. This one, make that a little bit bigger for you. So this is also mapping, what they're doing, what they're thinking, feeling, customer experience, and, mapping out opportunities. But I particularly like this little element here, right? Because it very quickly, yes, you could read the words and you can understand, what the emotions are, but these little faces really drive that point home and make it very quick and clear. And you see, like, the terminology is different. So, like, even between these three. So this is doing, thinking, feeling, customer experience, and opportunities. This one was about research and shopping and booking and documents. So the terminology even changes. This one is probably closer. Customer thoughts and feelings, customer actions, touch points. So it's not that there's a particular set of rules around how you do these. As long as you are getting the core pieces in, that's what's important. So here's a little snippet of one, because healthcare uses these a lot. So it's, the private patient, the state patient. So this was a comparison mapping. Which is a good thing to do if you have that kind of a situation where you've got different people coming in from different points to use the same services or same tools. This is a very specific one, also healthcare, right? So about a prostate. Now, of course, so this is the other thing. So you're going to give names to it, right? You're going to give some almost user persona, but not that detailed. Obviously, you're not going to use real people's name. You're not going to use real people's details. You're going to provide just enough information so that the person feels real. Usually what you're doing is you're combining a couple of different people to get this information together, because you don't want it to be John Doe. You want it to be a mix of people. It's a representation of what's going on. So you've got your touch points, your external influences, the internal influences, state of mind, insights, all that kind of stuff. Whoops, let me go back. I think this is another, this is another healthcare one, because we know we have a lot of healthcare fans out there. So, pre-visit check-in, pre-MD encounter, post-encounter, between visits. So this is a combination of the experience that they're having with people and with the overall process and with devices. So there's a lot going on here. But again, it's mapping it all out. Again, I'm not spending a lot of time on these. I just wanted you to get the visual potpourri the visual buffet of ways to do this, but to see the importance of having it be a visual thing. So this is just more of a generic one. This one looks to be, this seems to be around shopping. This is one about interaction between two businesses. It's a B2B flow, but you see how this one's making use of familiar icons. So right away you can see, there's some date-driven things, there's some transportation kind of elements, which are always a variable in any kind of a process. Charting where the issues and the potential roadblocks, that was the word I was looking for, where the potential roadblocks are. This is a more detailed one of, this one tends, when you start researching this, you'll see this one a lot. Everybody uses this as an example. But this one breaks it down again into the different stages and who's doing what, and what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what their experience is. But don't get overwhelmed, because it can be as simple as this, right? You can do this with Post-it notes, our favorite tool, right? On a board, and then you take a picture of it. It's more about what you do than how you do it. So same here, like if this works better for you, whatever. It can be, fancy and very graphical, or it can be super simple. That's not, that's the whole point here, is that it's not about how you do it. It's more about that you do it, which I think we say a lot here, but that's okay. That's a good thing, right? All right, so we're just checking here. It looks like we're good on questions. Awesome. Yes, I'm thank you for the hearts and the thumbs up, because this is the kind of thing that most of the time when I introduce it to people who haven't done it before, they do get kind of excited about it, because you start to see how doing this as your pre-work leads you to a much better understanding of things, right? So it's a good thing. Okay, so let me bring this back up. Wait, that one has to go away. And this one has to come up. A little behind the scenes look. I don't like having the thing down the bottom here. That's just a personal choice. Everybody's got their hang-ups, right? Okay, so how do you do this, right? How do you get this information, right? It doesn't fall from the sky. You don't wake up one day with it suddenly in your brain. Until the matrix comes, there's no chip we can insert in our brain. The processes for collecting this information are very familiar to us, right? It's your surveys, it's shadowing, it's interviews. You can pull some from the website analytics to kind of give you ideas on what's going on. Heat maps, that kind of thing in particular, can be handy too. Talk to your salespeople, right? Your support team, your account management teams. They're the ones who are dealing with these folks every day. They know what their pain points are. They are a treasure trove of information that don't get used enough. Go be their friends, bring them a cup of coffee, have a conversation. You'll be amazed at the things that they will tell you that have never been shared before because they figured everybody else knew. But that tends to happen when people have information, they don't always understand how valuable it is. So have those conversations. Focus groups are another great way to get it. And these are things that, are familiar to people who've been working as a BA for any length of time. The point here is take a few of them, because no single one is going to give you everything you need, but by pulling a few of them together, you're going to find all kinds of great stuff and all kinds of patterns and overlapping elements. And the overlapping ones are always a good warning sign or a good information point. So that is how you're going to do that. All right. So let me just take a real quick break here and remind you that if you are finding this helpful and you are new here, feel free to join the mailing list. We send that out to let everybody know what the topic's going to be ahead of time, and also any other things that we have going on. We always let that people know about that. You don't have to worry about us. We don't share it. We don't sell it. We're not sponsored. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we're not. So you can just go ahead and sign up for that. That's thebazone.com/mailing list. We need your email address. That's really it. And this is all the other places you can find us. So you can go to thebazone.com for additional information. If you have an idea for a show, if you have a question, there's a form there. You can fill that out and let us know. Just let us know if you need a fast answer or if you can wait till the next show. Either is fine, but if you need a fast answer, we'll get back to you right away. If not, then we'll save it for the next show, or heck, it'll even become a show. That's where a lot of our ideas come from. We're also on Instagram, on Periscope, on Facebook, and on YouTube. We're in all the places you would expect us to be. So don't be shy. Reach out. That's what we're here for. We're all here to help each other. It's actually kind of fun. All right, so now the big moment. We're going to get into my favorite part. The tools. Yay! I can't help it. I like the tools. All right, so I'm going to show you, what have I got? 3 tools. Now, there's a bunch out there, but the thing before I get into that, let me just remind you again that when you start to look into this, you're going to find all kinds of people who are promising you that if you pay lots of money for their tool or service, they can take your analytics and save you the trouble of building your own maps. Okay, that's not going to work. The whole point of this is going beyond just the data, so please don't do that. The other thing is, so I'm going to show you some tools that just make it easier to put these together. But that said, if you don't want to use them, if you can't get access to them, whatever, any graphics tool, wireframe tool, yes, even Visio, you can build it in just about anything. The only thing I will warn you about is that doing it in a graphics tool or Visio or what have you does make it a little harder to update and maintain, and it does make it harder to work on it in a group situation, especially if you have remote employees. That said, it can certainly be done. I've done them in like Google Docs using just their graphics. It was a little wonky, but we got it done. It served the purpose, and like I said, I mean, I've done it with Trello boards, so again, it's just limited by your creativity, but you can certainly find ways to do it. So, give me 1 second here while I flip things around so that I can show you these cool, nifty tools. All right, so we'll do it this way. So the first one is Maply. This one, to be honest, this is the one I use the most. Now, the thing I want to be upfront about, so this one is free for 14 days, and then you do pay a monthly fee. Now, the good news is they don't ping you. If you can get it done in 14 days or 13 days or whatever, that's fine. You can walk away after that not having paid. But I did want to make that clear. This is really super awesome for building these kinds of things. It kind of is, you fill out like forms as you go through and it puts the pieces together for you. So that makes it really nice when you are building out things. And it's like, so this kind of thing. So you can do things just with, different dots or whatever, but then you can actually change it out with the smiley faces if that applies for yours. You can do single, you can do multiple, all in one representation, or you can break it out across different ones. It really is a nice, smooth tool to work with. So I should have looked to see. I wonder if they have some samples. Should have looked before. But yeah, they've got some nice training. So anyway, so this one is a pretty nice collection and really easy to work with. Another one that I like, that I've used a lot too, is Expressa. Now the nice thing about this is you can actually sign up for free and keep using it for free. It does limit how many you can have. Okay, so you have one project, one customer app, for free. Of course, you can create one, print it, kill it, create your next one, print it, kill it. So you can totally use it for that, or you can pay for the monthly. We'll come back to this one in a second. And then there is this one called Cardboard. Now this one also has a free. The only difference is they don't limit you, but they are then, all the maps you create are available to the public. Now that may or may not be a problem for you, but if you need a completely free one that isn't limited, it's that. Also, to be honest, I mean, there have been situations where I just needed this and my boss wouldn't pay for it, so I just paid for it myself, because generally you don't need it for a year. Usually I need it for big projects. Let me just come back for a second. So yeah, I tend to use these on big projects. I tend to use these on the really complicated ones. Or I go back and I use it on ones where we haven't done it in a while, just to kind of get everybody focused again. So generally, I think the longest I've ever used one consistently is 3 months. And then I just, cancel it, or I suspend my account for a while until I need it again. And all these services are cool about that. They understand that you're not going to use it every single day, 365 days a year. It's just not that kind of a tool. So even if you do end up paying for it, if it makes your life easier to do them this way, it might be worth paying, $8, for a month or two, and then you can just shut it down. So, but that, it's up to you. I'm just telling you that that's how I go about doing it, because it has worked very well for me. Actually, that's usually what I do when I'm using Snaply. What are their prices now? It's been a little over a year. So €25. Okay. So I can never do the conversions in my head, but it's a little bit more in the US. Murphy, what are you doing? Okay. Sorry, he just makes me nervous when he gets near wires. So yeah, so there's that. But they're all pretty much the same. They all have the same kind of features. Well, this one now has added a Trello integration. Oh, that's cool. I'm going to have to play with that. Ooh, that could be big fun. Okay, sorry. Rabbit hole for me. Okay, so I did go ahead and I created a quick account here just so we could go into one. They all kind of work pretty much the same. Oh, I'm sorry. So I keep forgetting to switch back here. Sorry, one back. So I'll show you. The other one was Cardboard. And I went into features and I saw that they'd had Trello integrations now. So, but they all have pretty much the same kind of a thing. They give you some sort of user interface where you can drag and drop things and change colors and all that kind of good stuff. It's pretty straightforward. They all have training tools. So if you've never done this before, they make it very easy and simple and friendly for you to get into it. But let me just jump in. Not now. So this is just starting cold. So in order, for most of them too. So I had to go in, I had to I had to create my account, which is just email address and a password. And then I had to verify it in the email. And then I was able to, now I'm able to get in here. So this is where you start. Now all of them also have templates. So you can actually have a starting point if you want to. To be honest, I think actually this one too has got, where are the resources? Isn't this? One of them had really good templates. Of course, I'm not going to remember off the top of my head now. Okay, well, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so this one certainly does. So you can just go in and pick one to start with. So we're just going to do that. So we're just going to pick an example one and work off that. What do you feel like? This one's a good one? So these are all just the different pieces, and then you can add them as you go. I thought you could edit these. You used to be able to. Oh, okay. No, I can't edit that one. Okay. Used to be able to edit their demos, but I guess not anymore. So we'll create a new project. Untitled is fine. I don't want to invite anybody right now. All right, so let's pick this one. So this one just gives you a template, and you can then change it however you want, but you can just jump right in and say, and start putting pieces in. And it just starts building it out for you. And then you can add, things before it. You can add different layouts. So if you wanted to do bullet lists in here, you could do it that way. You could bring in images. So here we'll bring in Mr. Murphy. All I ask you is please don't steal images off the internet. There are either free places that you can get them, or your marketing department has some pictures that you can use. So there we go. So this is Mr. Murphy, and his user goal is treats and naps. I mean, obviously this is not what you would do, but this is just to get the point across. Dinner that he hasn't had yet. You can start to put in, how he does things. Let's see, how would he do things? Mr. Murphy would probably be using Twitch, right? Oh, wait, whatever this is, because this has got a dog paw on it, so we'll pick that. I don't know what it is. And then maybe he is going to get face-to-face and tell me that he's hungry. But if you see, they give you so much to work with. You really can start to build these quickly. But then as you need to, you can add other pieces. You can add other sections. These are paid versions. But you can do whatever it is that you need to do. Happy, hungry, bored. Okay? But this is the type of detail that you're going to get into. So when you're doing this type of thing, you want to get into the external forces as well as the internal ones, right? So let's say that you are, maybe you've got an app, right, that you're going to release, and maybe free or paid, doesn't matter. But you want to take into context all the things around it, right? So the level of comfort that somebody has with technology, maybe their phone's condition, right? Maybe it's an old phone, so it's not very fast. Or maybe it's a new phone, but they recently dropped it, and so the screen is shattered. I know nobody who does that. Not me. Other people I know. Maybe they're juggling, maybe they've got, the kids and the job, and, they're taking care of a parent, and so they've got a lot of things that they're dealing with, that are outside of the purpose for your app, but it's still factors that is affecting their decision making, their timelines, their stress levels. So these are the kind of things you put in there. Maybe they've had a bad experience before. All of these are the kinds of things that you would put in, and that would be a part of the experience. And then you would, change it from, maybe they're sad because of things going on, and then maybe they're nervous about something, right? And then, but they are annoyed about something else. But all of these things, all of these different states, all of the experiences around them impact how they do things, how they make their decisions. To put a different light on it, let's say that you sell equipment that is used in warehouses, right? So that's an environment where maybe auditory indicators are not so good because the environment is so noisy, right? They may be wearing noise-canceling headsets because they're trying to block out the noise. It's an environment where things tend to get a little grimy, so maybe a touch screen is going to be a problem because it gets scratched or dirty, or it stops interacting. So there's lots of different things that you include in these kinds of maps to help paint that rest of that picture out, right? You know that you've got this app and they use it to buy movie tickets, and maybe order their popcorn so it's ready for them when they get there. But you've got to take into account everything else around when they're doing it, how they're doing it, where they are when they're doing it, what their state is when they're doing it, because all of these things impact whether or not they're going to use it, how satisfied they're going to be. It is absolutely possible for somebody to be unhappy with what you're providing, and that unhappiness having nothing to do with what you've given them. But you have to factor that in because we are dealing with people. And the opposite happens, right? Sometimes, they may be in a great mood and then they come to use your tool, your product, your service, and they have a bad experience and that completely tanks them for the day, which is that other end of this process, right? So it's about what's happening before they start to engage with you, what happens during that process, and what happens after, right? If they came in a good mood and your tool or your product, your service just frankly pisses them off and makes everything painful and stressful and doesn't work the way they expect it to, when they come out of that, not only have they had a bad experience there, but they're now pissed off at the end of it, right? So that makes them less likely to recommend you, to reach out to you for help, to come back and use your stuff. These are all those kinds of pieces that don't come up in the analytics, right? The analytics may show you that somebody comes in and then it drops off at an unexpected point, but you don't know why. Doing the maps, doing the surveys, the interviews, putting all those pieces together gives you the rest of that picture, right? So it's the two of them together that gives you that whole picture that lets you know really what's going on so that you can start to work towards making that a better experience. Okay? So then, yeah, I mean, that's basically it. I can come back for a second here. But, you just walk through them and you can add different things. You can add personas. You can add stages. You can change these, right? You can, whatever you want. I'm on a food kick because we didn't eat dinner yet. So all of this is completely customizable and spelling helps. Oh, wow. Yes. Okay, let me try it this way. There we go. So you have total control over this. You can add new ones. Like I said, you can add new sections. You can customize things. It is all about whatever it is that works for your project, for your situation. You put in as many or as few of these as you need, while trying to make sure that you cover those ones that we talked about, before. You want to make sure that you're getting the actions, the motivations, the questions and concerns that the person has, the obstacles and the pain points. You want to make sure you've got all that covered. And as long as you're covering that in here, whatever number of rows and columns you need is what you need. There is no exact science to this. It is just a matter of doing that. It is the kind of thing where if you go and you look at other people's, you'll start to get some ideas. You'll start to pick up some patterns, which is why I showed you those examples. If you just go to Google and search customer journey map and hit images, well, here, I'll show you. You'll get a ton. Oops. Okay, so here, let me bring this back over. So I just put in, take that off, customer journey map, 241 million results. If you want to, you can always change the timeline on it if you want to see something that's a little more up to date. But then you just come up here and you click images, and you will see that there's lots to look from. There's lots of ideas to take. There's lots of ways to do it. And that is all good things. You can narrow it down. Okay, you can look at service, design, retail, banking, B2B, e-commerce, healthcare, insurance, marketing, design thinking. Like, this is a very popular thing. It works across everything. Product, okay? So you can narrow down your search to find whatever it is that is going to work best for you to get some ideas. Now, I will say, and I've had people try this, you're not going to find one out there that you can just take and use. I don't know why you would think with this many results, like there would be one out there would be a perfect match. Maybe there is, but we're talking needle in a haystack. What you're going to look for is just ideas. Ideas for how to represent it, the kinds of things that you want to include based on what it is that you are working on, and then just dive in and do it. Don't lose too much time looking at all the shiny objects because there are lots of them. But there's some really good resources out there. There's some templates that you can tap into. Usually they want an email address for it. So, again, if you need a starting point, they're out there. But if you want to be creative and just do it yourself, that is totally an option too. All right? Everybody good? If you have questions, comments, if you want more information, please reach out, let us know, thebazone.com. There's a nice form there. Or you can reach us on Twitter, which is we're the BA Zone there too. It is a very rich kind of resource. It is something that once you've done it, you will go back to it time and time again during your project. You will find that when you get stuck, it's a great thing to go and look at. It kind of gets all the roadblocks out of your mind and kind of frees up those creative juices again. The other thing that this is just unbelievably helpful for is when you need to do your process flow, your task flow, your workflows. All you have to do is go back to these. And basically, depending on your project, I usually say start off with 3 journey maps. You can always add to it later because the nice thing is the ones that you create today will apply to your project tomorrow. And so maybe tomorrow you would go back and add another one to it. And then maybe in 6 months you could add another one to it. And over time you'll end up with 8 or 10 that you can constantly turn to as you're working on different parts of your projects. and you won't need to keep rebuilding them. Maybe you'll go back and you'll tweak a couple. Maybe you'll take like that new user and maybe graduate her to an intermediate because she's been around for a while, and bring another new user in. But these are reusable resources for you. So I say at least start with 2 to 3 on your project today, and then over time add one, adjust a couple, and you will find that these are one of the few reusable resources that you're going to find as you are working on your requirements, and that in and of itself makes them extremely valuable. But the fact that they make all of the other flows that you have to do, all the other decision making points that you're going to run into so much easier, makes these something that if you haven't done them before, you'll be very glad you started. If you have, but you have kind of fallen out of the practice of it, you'll be glad that you went back and did it. All right. So thank you so much. Appreciate you being here as always. Hope that you will share the word, the likes, the follows, they all help, because that helps the algorithms put us in front of other business analysts, and we want to help all of the people we can. So thank you so much. I will be back again next week. I don't know what the topic is yet. I have a couple ideas, but I haven't decided yet. But if you want to be ahead of things, sign up for the mailing list, because as soon as I nail down which one I'm going to do, I will throw it out on the mailing list for you. All right? Thank you all so much. I hope you're having a good summer, and we will talk soon. Bye.